The president rescinds tariffs on imported steel. Spencer Michaels begins our coverage.
Today's decision cancels, as of midnight tonight, tariffs imposed last year to protect the ailing domestic steel industry. Steel producers had complained that cheap imports threatened their livelihoods. The tariffs, which would make foreign steel more expensive and therefore American steel more competitive, were supposed to last for 3 years, enough time for the industry to recover. But U.S. allies around the world called foul. China, South Korea, Japan, and Russia said the tariffs were unfair and unacceptable. And the European Union, which produces 25% of the steel imported into the U.S., reacted this way.
This is a particular case where the Americans have clearly placed their domestic interests over the international laws to which they have subscribed.
Some nations threatened retaliation, saying they'd levy their own tariffs on U.S. goods such as textiles manufactured in southern states and citrus products from Florida and California. At a meeting last month, a 3-member World Trade Organization panel ruled the American tariffs on steel illegal and said it would permit more than $2 billion in retaliatory tariffs. The controversy is not just abroad, but here at home. The issue of tariffs is likely to play into the 2004 presidential campaign. Steel producers who benefit from the tariffs are centered in the mid-Atlantic states of Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia, important battlegrounds in past elections. Industries that use steel and oppose tariffs are in hotly contested Midwest states such as Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. Of late, the tariff issue has been high on the president's agenda. On Monday, he met with small business people in Michigan who oppose the tariffs. Their firms use steel to manufacture products like car parts and appliances. And the next day, he attended a fundraiser in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, called Steel City. It was hosted by the CEO of U.S. Steel, who had pushed for the tariffs. But the president steered clear of the hot-button issue and instead lauded the growing U.S. economy.
Productivity is high. Business investment is rising. Housing construction is strong. The economic stimulus package that we passed out of the United States Congress is working. Save our steel!
Outside the hotel, about 300 steel workers braved freezing temperatures to press the president to keep the tariffs.
Thank you.
This afternoon, U.S. Trade Representative Robert Zoellick justified the decision, saying the tariffs had accomplished their mission during the 21 months they were in effect.
This safeguard definitely provided the industry and workers with needed breathing space. And to its credit, much of the industry has used this time well. The bulk of the restructuring that was necessary to make the industry more competitive has now taken place.
Zoellick was pressed by reporters on whether politics played into the decision.
If you're an ardent believer in opening markets, and I am, our tariffs are pretty low and I want to open other people's markets, you got to listen to people in terms of the need to give them a chance to get back on their feet, okay? And obviously that helps you with congressional politics in terms of trying to get support for trade. So, look, my job involves international politics, domestic politics, economics. That's the whole integration of the system. So, sure, in that sense, the politics are part of trying to accomplish an agenda.
One key player in that political fight, the steel manufacturers, said they were disappointed. In a statement, U.S. Steel said this decision will only make it harder to deal with the underlying problems distorting the global steel market. Pennsylvania Republican Congressman Phil English also called the decision disappointing, but said he blamed the World Trade Organization, not the president.
I understand how we got here, as disappointed as I am, and I think the real villain of the piece is clearly the WTO.
Meanwhile, the reaction from abroad was immediate. The European Union called the decision good news and said it would suspend any retaliatory tariffs.
Further reaction now from Leo Gerard, president of the United Steelworkers of America, representing nearly 1 million working and retired members in the United States. He joins us from Pittsburgh. And Louis Leibowitz, chief counsel of the Consuming Industries Trade Action Coalition. The coalition represents business consumers of steel. Mr. Gerard, you made a statement today and you said today's decision was a betrayal of American steelworkers. How is that, sir?
Well, look, we're very, very concerned that it would appear that the President has capitulated to the European Economic Union and to the Japanese, who are in fact responsible for a lot of the dumping and a lot of the illegal trade that had gone on. The other problem is in fact that we have a trade surplus from the European community and the Japanese when we have a deficit with them. And lastly, but certainly not leastly in that regard, they have a safeguard of their own on steel into Japan and into the European community. So the restructuring of the steel industry is not over. There were in fact 5 bankruptcies since the tariff has been put in place. Restructuring is not an event, it's a process. And we have 240,000 retirees who are counting on a successful steel industry, and this will make that much harder.
How will it affect them?
Well, we bargained substantial profit sharing that would go into a trust fund to buy benefits for those retirees. Almost 250,000 retirees who lost their benefits through 43 bankruptcies and 17 liquidations. Now, with the tariff removed, it will add a lot of instability to the industry. It will add a much more complicated process of ongoing restructuring and consolidation. We still have something like 17 steel companies in bankruptcy trying to work their way out, 5 new ones that went in since the tariff came in. And we've got to return those companies to profitability so that profits can go into the trust fund to get some benefits for these folks. Some of them are 80 and 90 years old. These are the folks that fought in the Second World War in Korea and Vietnam. These are the folks that built the steel, that built the towers and built the bridges and made this a strong country. And it's not just about steel, Jim. It's also about industrial manufacturing. We went step by step following the U.S. trade laws through 130 plus dumping cases that we won something on every one. We pushed for a 201 investigation because the dumping cases weren't working. And the ITC held, the International Trade Commission held that investigation. They recommended unanimously for one of the few times in their history that the President take a safeguard action. So we followed the law. And then the President put in a 3-step program. Step 1 was a 3-year declining tariff. Step 2 was trying to negotiate at the OECD a reduction in the global overcapacity and unfair subsidies. Thirdly was to encourage the union and the industry to take part in a consolidation. We've held up our end of the bargain. And now, because of threats from Europe and Japan, it appears the President has capitulated to them. So it's going to make life much more difficult.
Mr. Leibowitz, for you and the people you represent, this is happy news, though, correct?
It's a great day for steel consumers, indeed. The steel consumers in the United States, who represent about 12 million workers, stood up and argued for their interest to be considered alongside of the steel industry. The President made a fair decision based on all the facts. The WTO decision was one of those facts, but chief among those facts, in our view,